Last summer, our center has published a book titled Multiple Pandemics to critically reflect on COVID-19 pandemic from the Korean experience and from the perspective of global citizens. Through this book, we want to emphasize that solidarity and cooperation based on the sense of connectedness, civic responsibility, and democratic engagement are critical to overcoming crisis and building a better future. For this project, we invited experts from various fields ranging from medicine to political science and journalism.
In this book, 10 writers, including myself, explored democratic citizenship, solidarity, common good, critical literacy, and cooperation in times of the pandemic. In the first chapter, we presented the basic scientific overview of COVID-19 virus and its nature as pandemic, and elaborated how infectious disease and the response to it is a product of intersection between the social and the biological. We also emphasized that measures against COVID-19 should be approached from the perspective of civic participation and democratic citizenship and shifted towards human security and caring for the community. In my chapter, I critically analyzed media reports on COVID-19 and addressed the media's role in helping the public build their psychological defense against pandemic, based upon well-established evidence and guidance, rather than sensationalism that breeds fear, misinformation, and distrust. Lastly, the book stresses that solidarity and cooperation across the borders are not only the moral obligation of global citizens, but also important elements in ensuring the safety of ourselves and others against COVID-19. Ultimately, it reminds us of the importance of global citizenship education in this pandemic era.
Currently, we are preparing an English edition of this book for a wider audience around the world. The specifics of Korean experience are grounded in the socio-cultural, political, economic context of South Korea. Yet we believe that the questions raised, issues at stake, and insights provided in this book will bear significance to the rest of the world. The title of an English edition is Emerging Issues in Times of Multiple Pandemics, the Korean Experience, and it will be available in electronic version by the end of this year.
NISM is proud to be able to launch the second volume of its Global Briefs, Educating for the Social, the Emotional, and the Sustainable, at the Conference on Global Citizenship Education, held by the Asia Pacific Center for Education and International Understanding. The title of this open access volume reflects the theme of the conference, Pedagogy, Practice, and Materials. With 11 contributions and 28 authors, the volume makes an important contribution to the themes of global citizenship, social and emotional learning, pedagogy, and textbooks. We asked some of the authors to say a few words.
Yeah, sure, thanks, Andy. So I'm currently working as a research associate for the Research for Equitable Access and Learning Centre at the University of Cambridge, and alongside that, I'm also working as a consultant for the World Bank's Teach team on the development of the Teach Secondary Observation Instrument. And just to give you some background to our paper, so as part of the work for the Leaders and Teachers Initiative, the MasterCard Foundation's program, we became really interested in using the World Bank's Teach tool, largely because it had an area that was specifically focused on measuring teachers' encouragement of students' social-emotional skills in the classroom. And a reason for this was when we had initial discussions, focus group discussions with teachers in Rwanda, this came out as an area that was a really important part of their definition of teaching quality. But one question we had at the time was whether we could actually use Teach at the secondary level, because it had originally been designed for use in primary and it had been mainly applied in that setting before. So this led us to reach out to the World Bank's Teach team and Ezekiel Molina and Adele Pratum, who are also on the paper with us. And they confirmed that it did have potential for secondary, but also highlighted to us that it had limited application at that level to date. So I think this interaction occurred at a really opportune time for both of us. And so the World Bank were interested in revising it for secondary, and we were also interested in using it for our project. So this led to a close collaboration, and we've been working since this time on developing the tool for secondary, and a big focus of that work has been improving the relevance of the socio-emotional skills area to secondary teaching and learning.
My name is Kwame Champong. I'm a Professor of International Education and Development at the Open University. Our paper really emerged from something we hadn't actually planned to look at. We were commissioned to look at the impact of speech school programs in Ethiopia. We were, however, interested in trying to explore what made the effects that we were going to see happen. And so we undertook classroom observations in a way which allowed us to capture the whole essence of what was happening in the classroom with our partners, Ethiopian research partners, on video. And then collectively, we began looking at it. And what clearly stood out was some form of what we called organized chaos. We thought there was a lot of activity going on, which seemed to the untrained eye as not really fostering learning in the conventional way in which you will understand it. But as we explored this, we came to realize that the pedagogy was non-coercive, it was culturally appropriate, it reinforced the importance of community in the production of knowledge. This is what really sparked our interest in understanding what was going on. And this led to us beginning to see how socio-emotional learning was playing a very important part in understanding how these children were really making good progress in their learning. And so we feel that this was a real opportunity for us to really get into this area. And this led to us trying to present this in the paper that we wrote. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, I'm Susanna Brinkman. I've been living the last 12 years in Delhi, India, working with consulting to the Indian government and to UNICEF of trying to figure out why our classrooms in India struggling to shift. And not only child-centered education, but also more inclusive education, and a lot of the things that this NISM has been talking about, of more social and emotional skills. And I arrived 12 years ago very idealistic of all the goals I wanted to reach. And then a mentor critiqued me early on, saying, don't focus on the goals of where you want to reach. Look at where teachers are at today and help them take one step further and help them build on what they're already doing. And that's one thing I really liked about the issue, is that it's actually looking at what is already working on the ground in all these different countries, regions of the world. And let's start with that and build on that, on what teachers are already doing. So I think that's a very helpful perspective that this issue is taken. And I think it can be very useful to educators around the world that are trying to build and move towards these goals.
Hi everyone, this is Hyunmok Lim, Director of APCAIU, FCU. I am pleased to introduce to you the research that we are conducting this year to explore the role of education for continuing and promoting international understanding and cooperation in the post-corona world. We are sadly seeing nationalism and xenophobia rising again in today's extraordinarily uncertain and unstable situation. Although it is clear that the global solidarity and collective action is needed more than ever, the reality seems to be going in opposite direction. In numerous countries, xenophobic nationalism is surging in both political leaders' rhetoric and public sentiments and behaviors. We may see more national egoism and protectionism during and after the pandemic. So we wanted to ask the following questions. First, what will be the implications of COVID-19 for international exchange and cooperation, especially in education? Secondly, what should we as educators and researchers and practitioners do to counter the rise of populist nationalism? Lastly, what should be the focus and direction of international cooperation in education during and after the pandemic in order to promote international understanding?
Hello, my name is Dina Kiwan and I'm from the University of Birmingham in the UK. My paper will be on race, gender and disability and their intersections under the impact of COVID-19. 2020, as we've all seen, has brought unprecedented challenges globally with the COVID-19 pandemic, adversely affecting health, the economy, education, and our normal way of life can no longer be taken for granted. We're witnessing the unfolding of this toll on children and young people in education, where disruptions to education have been and continue to be widespread. Young people are having to learn to live with heightened uncertainty, as well as increased nationalism, populism, and isolationism. Research is already emerging that already marginalised groups in society are at risk of becoming either further marginalised. For example, Black and minority ethnic communities have been more adversely affected with respect to health outcomes and mortality rates, and also education gaps are increasing. These differential outcomes are evident both within country level and between countries, with the gaps at risk of widening even further between the global north and global south. Although mobility is severely restricted, there's nevertheless a critical need for virtual international collaboration in education in order to address these challenges, informed by empirical interdisciplinary research. This research paper examines the intersectional challenges and makes proposals for promoting international understanding and cooperation in education. This will draw in part on my project funded by the UK Arts and Humanities Council in conjunction with the United Nations Partnership on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, where we are developing a research-informed framework to support a disability-inclusive recovery globally.
The title of my paper is Computational Cooperation, Configuring International in Chinese School Textbooks. In this paper, I use China as an example to examine how the idea of international is taught to students in schools. In particular, I analyze how textbooks in China discuss the issue of international affairs and international relations. The rationale is that despite the heavy promotion of international understanding and global citizenship in education systems across the world in the last few decades, there has been rising xenophobic and nationalist sentiments across the world, especially during the pandemic. Why is that? My paper showed that, at least in the case of China, although textbooks try to teach students an idea of international cooperation in tackling global issues such as climate change, what students are also taught is the idea that China needs to become strong in the competition between different nations so that it can restore its rightful place in the world. In other words, what students are taught is actually a Darwinist vision of international order that advocates competition rather than cooperation. This, to my understanding, may obstruct our work in promoting international understanding and cooperation in the post-corona world, and needs to be addressed in our work as educators, researchers, and practitioners in the future.
This is Kyoko Nakayama from Teikyo University in Tokyo. I want to talk about what can we learn from the pandemic of COVID-19 and attempt to develop teaching materials for international understanding and cooperation. I'd like to suggest to organize an international project to collect lesson plans and practice report on the theme of COVID-19. One of my ideas is to promote international exchange classes using the same lesson plans. We can consider COVID-19 as a teaching resource for international understanding. Following are my ideas. It was very significant to think this idea for me. I'm looking forward to seeing you and discussing about this topic. Thank you.
The SDG 4, quality education, is the key to fulfilling UN Sustainable Development Goals. GCED has emerged as a common education goal around the globe since it has been integrated under SDG Target 4.7. In order to fulfill Target 4.7, it is essential that the GCED is mainstreamed into each and every country. Integrating GCED into national curriculum can be a stepping stone in the process of mainstreaming GCED around the world. Supported by Korean government, UNESCO Apseyu launched the GCED Curriculum Development and Integration Project in 2016. Each project is implemented for 3 years and facilitated in partnership with the Ministry of Education of each participating country. In each country, the project is steered by its Ministry of Education and facilitated by the GCED Curriculum Developing Committee in collaboration with Apseyu. This project succeeds in effective mainstreaming of GCED through systemic integration of GCED on their national education system. Based on the understanding of the socio-cultural context and the educational system of the corresponding country, this project contextualizes GCED to reflect the unique context and the needs of each country. In addition, the project also enhances the quality of education and strengthens GCED capacity of the participating countries. The first round, from 2016 to 2018, of participating countries were Cambodia, Colombia, Mongolia, and Uganda. Our participating countries have done numerous studies, workshops, and meetings to publish their outputs. Based on the outcomes of their projects, our participants have developed national curriculum design, GCED guidelines and frameworks, and teaching and learning resources on GCED. They also presented the institutional framework to solidify the grounds for GCED to be established and maintained in each national context. UNESCO Apseyu has been working closely with the participating countries for successful implementation of the project, so that the GCED can be assimilated to the educational environment of each country. The second round, from 2019 to 2021, of the participating countries are Kenya, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, and Lebanon. Despite the challenges posed by the global COVID-19 pandemic, they are strongly committed. Now, we would like to give you an overview of the progress of GCED curriculum development and integration projects in the Philippines and Kenya.
The main objective of this project is to develop a national framework on GCED integration in the Philippine basic education curriculum. Specifically, it aims to identify GCED knowledge, skills, and attitudes and values that can be integrated by our teachers across subjects and levels. This is significant for Philippine basic education because this will serve as a very important input while the Department of Education is reviewing the K-12 curriculum. GCED is now formally part of the curriculum. We thank Apseyu and DepEd for the trust and confidence given to PNU to lead this project in coordination with them. We are committed to the promotion and advancement of GCED in the Philippines and beyond. We hope for continued partnership and engagement. Mabuhay!
KICD is currently undergoing a curriculum reforms, and this has provided us a very big opportunity to plug in citizenship into our curriculum, and citizenship is one of our core competencies, and therefore GCED properly fits into the curriculum. So one of the documents we have produced is what we are calling the Citizenship Education Guidelines. And this is a guidelines that targets all stakeholders and teachers. If they want to understand what is citizenship, what are we doing about it, and how do we intend to mainstream it in our curriculum, then this is the guidelines. We were concentrating on integration of global citizenship education in the curriculum, and that the process has involved developing mainstreaming matrices. These are broad frameworks to be able to guide curriculum developers so as to be able to integrate the global citizenship education concept in the curriculum. So we have developed two mainstreaming matrices, one for junior school covering grade 7, 8 and 9. This is the similar one now for senior school.
I am one of the officers who are involved in the development of the English curriculum designs. And we have integrated citizenship education in the junior and senior secondary school curriculum designs.